Hello everybody and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer, and on today's video we're going to be speaking about the club on my screen at Brighton and their next manager. Guys, this was a video that I wanted to do because a lot of people obviously paying attention to the fact that Potter is moving to Chelsea. We've got lots and lots of coverage on that, but not a lot of attention is being paid to who the next Brighton manager is going to be. So I thought I'd have a look through the bookies, I'd have a look at the bit of the news as well, and just draw up a list of those that are favourite to replace, obviously, Graham Potter, and also look at each of those managers and what they will bring. But guys, I do have to say, just firstly, before I do that, on the whole Graham Potter situation, I mean, look, I am not a Brighton fan myself, but I think it's a massive shame. I am one of the other 14 clubs. I support Wolves. So you could argue for me, it should be like a bonus. So I should be kind of happy going, oh, brilliant, Brighton are possibly going to achieve what they were expected to, or this puts them at some kind of disadvantage. But if I'm being completely honest, I think it's a real shame. You know, it just really proves that the money in the Premier League and what it can do, any time that you see one of these clubs like Brighton really coming up and doing something, then you just see the money talks. And, you know, we've seen some of their players obviously being took from them, and now seeing Graham Potter as well. I just think it's a complete shame. But if you're a Brighton fan, and what we're going to do on this video is look towards the future, and we're going to start with this man on my screen because he is by clear the bookie's favourite. And a bit like Graham Potter, actually, when he got announced for Brighton, he's probably not the first name you possibly would have thought of to be the next manager. But this could be a really good choice. The man that is on my screen, Kjetil Knutsen. I might have got his first name completely wrong, but the second name I'm quite confident on. What can I tell you about this man? Well, it looks like Brighton could be going back into the Scandinavian market. Obviously, as we know, they've got Potter from the Swedish league. It looks like they could be going into the Norwegian league to get this man. And he's a man that is basically going to come with a lot of great potential by him. And, you know, it'd kind of be a Graham Potter version too. To be honest, you can see that could be the case. He plays a similar formation. He plays in a similar way as well. Very much known for his high pressing, counter-attacking football. And he somehow manages, obviously, being vigilant in defence, but at the same time creates fast yet effective football. So it would kind of feel like a really good match. And I think maybe this is why he's the manager that's been like really spoken about well. And obviously someone that, you know, obviously Brighton themselves have identified as an early candidate to come in and do the role. He's also very good at developing youth players as well, which again would be another thing which, you know, we've seen with Brighton's transfer policy. That we know that they've got youngsters in the squad as well. I think that's something that would be very favourable for this Brighton team. So could be a really good match. And as I say, currently the bookie's favourite. I think by not a massive stretch, but very much at the moment, I think the bookies are making him out to be the number one candidate. Now, of course, he is currently with a club like a number of the people that are going to be on this list today. But we do know that Brighton have obviously got the money to go out and buy a manager from another club, especially when you see the amount of money that they've received for obviously Graham Potter. So I don't think that would be much of a trouble. I think obviously for him as well, coming from the Norwegian league where he's won 2 leagues, to having a shot at the Premier League, I'm sure it'd be too good an opportunity for him to turn down as well. So he is the main candidate, but we're going to speak about another 3 candidates, and we're going to look into the English leagues for here, because we've got 3 managers obviously on my screen at the moment. We've got Steve Cooper. We've got obviously Russell Martin as well on the right. And we've also got Nathan Jones of Luton Town. So I am going to start off with Mr. Steve Cooper. Now, Steve Cooper, currently the second favourite actually at the time of recording. This would be a really ambitious move. Now, I think if you speak to any Nottingham Forest fan, they would tell their owner, don't you dare sell. I mean, he's been absolutely incredible for them. Obviously, we know the story of where he took Forest from last season to bringing them up into the Premier League. We also know before then his time at Swansea, getting them into the playoffs and narrowly just missing off in the playoff final, which, you know, nearly bringing 2 clubs up, basically. But, I mean, what he's done with Forest was absolutely fantastic. Already we're seeing some similarities in the way that his preferred formation, once again, is that kind of free 3-4-3, or he can play obviously with two strikers as well. But he does like using those wing backs, getting them up the pitch. We can see some similarities to the way that he would play alongside how Brighton currently play. But as I said, I'm sure Nottingham Forest fans would be get lost. The only thing that makes me think this might happen, it's obviously Forest's slow start to the season. Now, I'm sure some Forest fans would probably agree with me watching this, but the owner, for Forest, he can't be really, you can't complain. He's got them to the Premier League, but he is known to make some rash decisions. Maybe if he's unhappy with how Forest are looking at the start of the season, maybe if a decent bid comes in, they would accept it. I just can't see this one. I'd be very surprised if Nottingham Forest allow Steve Cooper to leave. But if they do, would be an absolutely incredible signing for Brighton to get him in as the new manager. Of course, we're now going to move on to this man, Nathan Jones, Luton Town manager. Once again, plays a 5-3-2 formation, which is obviously, again, partners up quite well with obviously how Brighton play with those wing backs, and obviously once again kind of mirrors what Brighton have been doing this season. But as well as that, this is a guy I'm sure if you're a Brighton fan watching will know that he's obviously got history with the club as well. He was previously a caretaker manager as well as being as assistant manager, and since then he has gone on to manage Luton Town twice, and obviously a little spell with Stoke City, which didn't go too well. But if we focus on the good, he's done incredible things with Luton Town. And of course, he was rewarded with that last season when he was actually made the PFA Manager of the Year, somehow getting that really small squad with not much money invested into the playoff picture. I'm actually making the playoffs, so I must say. I think what he did with Luton was incredible last season. And then once again, I think this would be a manager for me personally that I would love to see given a go in the Premier League. Now, the last one, his odds have kind of stretched a little bit from a day ago. We saw him at the same price as around Steve Cooper and obviously Nathan Jones yesterday. It's stretched a little bit more since then, and the odds have gone back a little bit. But we do know that obviously Brighton have reached out to all three of these managers that I've mentioned to have talks with them, or try and get talks. I know they've been successful with both Russell Martin and Nathan Jones, and they've at least asked Nottingham Forest, can we have permission to speak to Steve Cooper? Well, Russell Martin, at the moment, managing Swansea City. He came from Swansea from MK Dons, and he did a brilliant job at MK Dons. At Swansea, he's doing a good job. He is doing a good job. I would say he's not doing anything too phenomenal at the moment. I think if he managed to get obviously Swansea into the playoffs, you'd go fair play. To be honest, if I was going to dip into one of the two of those championship managers, I'd really fancy giving Nathan Jones a try. If I'm being honest, I think what he's done with Luton is incredible, and also knowing a bit about the club in Brighton. Of course, Brighton have probably come on a long way since he left the club, but having those roots to the club as well, I'd probably go with Nathan Jones just in this particular example. But I think, again, Russell Martin would be a good choice. But, guys, those are probably the four favourites, actually. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to dive in quickly to some of the other candidates in case they do come up. And, obviously, there is still some good odds on them, but they could be interested. And, obviously, the man on my screen, the Celtic manager at the moment. Of course, he's playing phenomenal football with Celtic. They're doing absolutely brilliantly in the Scottish League. Obviously, absolutely thrashing Rangers just a week ago. And they're just playing some really good, attractive football. And I think that's a reason why maybe he's been touted as the a next potential Brighton manager. There's questions about whether he would want to leave Celtic, especially with them having Champions League football. But we do know we're the alert of the Premier League, and maybe it could be one of those where Brighton might tempt him. Another person that could be and has been spoken about is this man, Brendan Rodgers, obviously under massive pressure at Leicester City. And to be honest, when you talk to Leicester fans, it only feels like it's a matter of time now before they do pull the trigger on Brendan Rodgers. But the question is, at the moment, he still is with obviously Leicester City, and it's one of those because we're led to believe there's not going to be any football for 2 weeks. We then go into an international break. You then think he's at least given in a couple more games after the international break, unless they pull the trigger on him now. I think it'd be a brilliant choice if he was a free manager. But you'd wonder how much Brighton would want us to pay, especially when Brendan Rodgers is under such pressure. And I do think after this time with Leicester, I think it might be a case where he could just do with a few months out before going straight back into another job. So let's move on to obviously another ambitious candidate that has been mentioned in the odds, Pochettino. Now, this would be a really ambitious move. We know that. Is it possible? I really don't know with this one, to be honest. I don't know, but he is in the betting odds. Obviously, it would be an absolute steal for Brighton. And to be fair to Brighton, you know, they're improving year on year. They're spending cash. They are spending cash. They've just got a really good, attractive way of football, a really good, attractive team. Could it tempt someone like Pochettino back into the managerial role? Who knows? I think it would be a little bit of a stretch, but there is always that question around it. And then I think the last man I wanted to bring up was obviously this man, Sean Dyche. We know he was sacked from Burnley at the end of last season. 10 years he lasted with the club. Still out of football at the moment. We know he would be interested in roles if they came up. This one is always going to be the question of, will he match Brighton's style of play? We know that Brighton, you know, don't just sit back and defend. Of course, the typical characteristics of what Burnley are very much different from what Brighton are. The question will remain with Dyche, though. Was that always him, or was that just him making the best out of the team that he had? You know, we always ask that question with these kind of managers. If they were given a more exciting team, could they play that expansive football? Could they play that very interesting football? It would be an interesting one to see. Of course, he is currently, guys, around about 14-1 with a whole host of names, some of which I've mentioned in the betting odds. So unlikely. I think it's probably going to be the first four that I mentioned. But the question is, guys, who would you take if you were Brighton? If you're a Brighton fan, let me know who you guys are urging for. To be honest, if I had to make a call, I'm backing the favourite at the moment. I really am. I'm looking into him. I like him. I feel he kind of matches what, you know, obviously Brighton had previously when they brought Potter in. I think his style of play, the way that he manages youth players as well, you can see why he's the favourite. And I do think he's someone that, you know, could really make an impact on the English game. And, of course, has been previously linked with the English teams before, such as Norwich, I know, were in for him once. And Blackburn did consider him this summer as well. So that's my prediction. But, guys, do let me know in the comments which way you would go. And as I said at the start of the video, if you have enjoyed the video, please drop a like. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on another video. Take care. Goodbye.